Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hire Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzar. Happy to be your co-host today with Vern Schellinger and Alki Thompson. We all have various versions of recruiting and coaching backgrounds, and we're just delighted to support you all in your job search. We have some folks who've been with us before and some folks who are new. So welcome, everyone. So today is just a real open Q&A session, right? So whatever job search question is on your heart and mind, from resumes to interviews to salary to working with recruiters to networking to whatever you'd like to bring to the table, we are happy to address it. And at some point, we'll hopefully get to know you all a little bit better, especially those of you who are newer to our call, so we can see if we can support you a little more deeply with your search. So with that, who would like to kick us off with a question? Don't be shy.
So nobody has any problems with their
All right,
job search?
all right. So we'll hang up now. Karen.
Okay, good morning. It's good to be back, unfortunately. But anyway, I'm just was let go not let go, but the contract that I was working on ended. And I guess my question would be, because the company, a financial services firm, they I really enjoyed the work, and they say that because they just had a layoff, my contract also ended, so that jobs were not really available for now. But they said that they think that they're going to be expecting more hiring in about a month or two. So what would you recommend in regards to keeping connected with the people from my old company? What type of strategies? How frequent? I mean, I know some of the recruiters and stuff, so I just kind of want to create a plan for myself to continue to stay connected with the company. So what's your recommendation?
Well, so there's the relational and there's the practical. Okay. Relationally, you're already connected, meaning they know you, right? So it's not like you have to remind them of you relationally. You're there in their heart and mind, right? So that's that part. On a practical level, what I would do is don't just, don't just like touch base in a month, because I know they said that they'll be opening stuff in a month. I'd give it a little more time than that. But what I would do at this point is ask your main recruiter, and I know we've talked about this in the past, you and I mean, there's a woman, right, who's been kind of your main point of contact.
Right.
I literally ask her that. Say, okay, so and so, you mentioned that this is coming up in a month. When should I touch base? Because she's busy, right? And she won't be able to handle a lot of touch base calls to say, should I touch base in 2 months? I'm sure you're going to keep me in mind anyway, but should I keep abreast of the website? Like literally just ask her what is the most appropriate method for her, right? To be respectful of her time.
Okay.
So that's my recommendation. Alki or Vern?
No, I think that's right on, Shira.
Yeah, and you can say, if I haven't heard back from you, should I just literally say, I want to be respectful. How frequently should I touch base? What's the best methodology, to keep track of opportunities? That's what I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Claudia?
Hi, my question is more about transition. So I am employed currently, and unfortunately, I don't want to be in the current role that I'm in. I have quite a lot of transferable skills, but I want to go into a completely different industry. So I am in the tech industry, and I want to go more into a grassroots wellness industry. So I'm having a hard time with profile on LinkedIn, right? Because right now my profile says, I'm a customer success manager at Ping Identity, and then I put slash the qualifications that I have acquired over the years to move more into a wellness business. So that would be my question as far as kind of like that tagline. What do I do with it? And then, because I don't want to keep promoting the customer success and tech piece of it, because I want to veer over and kind of promote a little bit more of the acquired skills over the last years. Do you have any suggestions on that?
I have more suggestions than we have time for today. More questions than we have time for today. You just opened up a whole, I'm like, boom, 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 boom. All right, I'm going to try to keep this super tight. So couple quick questions. Are you looking to start your own business in wellness?
Potentially, but I think that really what I want is to work for another company first before I am ready to transition into my
Okay,
own.
that was for question one. Question two, are you looking to continue in the customer success profession, but do it within wellness?
I could.
Okay. So the reason why I asked that, and then by the way, just for those of you who are new, the way we address questions is we'll address the question of the person, but we're actually speaking to everybody, right? Because people have similar kinds of questions. So I'm going to give everybody here a concept, and Claudia, a concept for you to consider. I call it lane versus community. Okay, this is very, very important for branding, lane versus community. Your lane is your profession. It's what you do. Your community is the industry, mission, or sector that you do it for. Okay, so in your case, your community has been the tech world. Now you want to change it into the wellness world. Okay, it's two completely different communities. Your profession, the what you do, right, your lane, that may or may not change. But here's the thing, and I say this all the time, employers are risk averse, period. Because they're risk averse, they really don't have time to train. And they want people who can kind of slide into the next job. Now, in their perfect world, usually, they want people, when they're posting a job, they want people who've come from that lane and that community. That's their ideal. When you're trying to shift, you have to minimize their risk. It's very, very difficult to change both your lane and your community. They don't know what to do with that. That's like super, super risky for them. If you're trying to change your community, you typically want to stay with your lane. I'm not saying it's an easy shift, but it's easier, right, than doing both. So I'll give you an example that I've brought up on this call before. So years ago, I was working with an attorney who I'm a career coach and a recruiter. And so in my career coaching hat, I was working with this gentleman, and he decided he wanted to become a recovering attorney, if you know what I mean. He wanted to leave the profession, but he decided he wanted to become a writer. So shift from the attorney lane to a writer lane. And so we took his resume and pulled out all of his writing skills, every last one of them, because attorneys do a lot of writing. And then changed his LinkedIn profile to talk about why he likes to write, kinds of writing he likes to do, blah, blah, blah. He ended up getting a job as a journalist with a legal trade publication. New lane, journalist, right, writer, but same community, a legal publication. Now today he's an English teacher, okay? But he was able to eventually make the switch. But my point is that you've got to be very, very intentional. Think like an employer. The employer is the one who's hiring you. Now you have to accept the job, but it has to be right for you. But they're the ones who have the business need. So they're the ones who you have to convince that you're going to be not so risky. So we can't, spend a lot of time right now on the wording of how you do this. I wanted to give you the concept of it. So when you're thinking about your LinkedIn headline, when you're thinking about your about section, when you're thinking about your resume, you've got to be thinking about, okay, so what are the transferable skills in my lane that I can bring over to a new community? On top of which, if you are switching to a new community, I always recommend kind of swimming with the new fish in the new pond, okay? So communities tend to hang out, industry people tend to hang out together in associations and networking groups online, right? They kind of have similar business interests. So to the extent that you can start swimming in those ponds, getting on social media, finding an association that has a local chapter within that wellness world, start to hang out with the fish, right? Swim alongside so that they kind of feel that you're like part of them, part of that community. That's going to be your best way to at least get noticed and minimize the risk, because they're going to feel like, oh, she's one of us. She's part of us. She understands our business challenges. She's committed to changing into this sector. It's going to be more helpful, right, for them to say, okay, yeah, we're happy to, keep your lane. You can come over here. And that, I'm not saying it has to work exactly that way, but more or less, that's the sort of the concept. So does that help?
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just add to what Shira said. As you hang out with the new community, it's also the great place to start learning, more. I mean, I'm sure you don't know everything about the wellness world yet, right? So it's a great way to learn more about that. How did they get into it? What are the things that are key in terms of their skills or competencies to be successful in this world? you can really tap into their expertise and their experience and help you learn how to, transition into a whole new world.
Exactly. Alki?
Yeah, and I hope I don't drop out now. I dropped out a little bit during what you were saying, Claudia, but what Shira said kind of nailed it, because I was thinking automatically lane community. If I heard correctly, sometimes the easiest way is presenting your lane, your skill set to the new community and looking for jobs there first, and maybe starting there volunteering wise, and then over time as you learn, you're now in the club, because I call it members only. It's a members only club, and you have to put on their jersey, or even get a jersey at some point. And in order to do that, instead of them saying, hey, what kind of fish are you? We're all swordfish. You're another kind of fish. You got to start eating what we eat, talking how we talk. So that's the best way, is earning trust, starting to look like them, dress like them, talk like them. And you do that by hanging out. And then when the trust is earned, then everybody's like, oh, okay, you're one of us. Take a look at the job board, take your pick. You can be whatever you want. But you also, to Vern's point, you've learned, the mission, you've learned what's important to them, what their people typically look like. And one last thing I'll say is, you should look at some of the organizations, wellness organizations that you're interested in, or close to those. Pull up some jobs on job boards and just look at how they read. A lot of times they'll put a section in that tells you, hey, this is our culture. We're a company that does X, Y, Z, and you'll start to see what the description says, which is kind of a little note for you on how to start tweaking your resume to use their language and use the words that they typically use.
Yeah.
Skill set, background requirements, all those types of things. You see what they ask for from their people, and you start looking at your resume and your background and pull out those skill sets that you've done, and thinking about what you've done in the past that looks like that.
And what are the titles that they use, right? What are those, the thing that's maybe similar to your lane? What is that called in that new sector? And what are the skills, to Alki's point? What are the skills? And so that's how you can then frame your LinkedIn headline, by calling out the title, if you will, and the skills that they typically use, because you want to be found by recruiters. That's the other thing that everybody needs to know here. Your LinkedIn profile is very, very important, because recruiters like me, like Alki, we're looking for you. And so we use the search bar in the upper left-hand corner, and we put in keywords. We don't just put in any keywords. We start with the title. So let's say I'm looking for a director of marketing. I'm going to put in director of marketing in the search bar, right? And or some version of that, or I want a digital marketer, so I'm going to put digital market. And I want people whose headlines have that. Why? Because that's how LinkedIn's algorithm works. LinkedIn's algorithm, when somebody puts something in the search bar, LinkedIn's algorithm automatically goes to whatever's in the headline first, and then what your job titles are. Okay. So what you have in the headline matters in terms of you coming up on that first, second, third page, let's say. So just be very, very intentional in how you're networking within that new fish pond. What are the titles that are appropriate for what you've done? What are the keywords? And that's how you start to craft it. Okay. I know that's a little bit generic, but hopefully that at least helps you and put you in the right direction.
Yes, of course. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Great. Other questions?
Yeah, I think, sure, thanks. Everyone here, Vern and Alki, am I saying that right? Okay,
Yep.
great, thanks. Claudia, since you, there's some connections here, so I have a scenario I'd like to share to see how you react to it, if you have any advice or thoughts or questions I should be asking. And Claudia, it's interesting, I'm looking for a change as well, but I was laid off last June. Did a little consulting and then took some time off to think about what I wanted to do, and customer success is what rose up to the top for me. So it's funny you're looking to leave that and move into something else. But also you all have been recruiters, so I have been kind of focusing more on customer success and developing language and things, and revising my resume, my LinkedIn to do exactly what you're suggesting, just to bring in the language, to learn the language, and to bring it into what I've done. Because in a lot of ways I've been doing that, not by title. But anyway, I'm still struggling to, get I'm getting contacts. I've talked to a lot of people. People have introduced me to folks. So I've had some conversations. People love it. I haven't talked to anyone who doesn't like it yet. Oh, I see you're leaving. Maybe I should talk to you. So everyone's just been like, yeah, it's a great profession. And yeah, you have the skills. But when it comes down to it, it seems like they're looking for people who've done it already for
It's
the
true.
most part.
It's true.
And I'm told that it's a little saturated right now. Because there was some big layoffs at the end of last year. So there's just a lot of people looking, right? Plus jockeying around. So that's part of the situation, part of the context. I've also been in conversation with someone who reached out to me. They found my profile on LinkedIn, reached out. Sure, I followed your advice. I put my phone number on my LinkedIn. I didn't have that on there before. And so he reached out to me. That's how I knew it was legit, right? I get a lot of texts, a lot of scam texts, but that's okay. I know the difference. So anyway, this gentleman reached out to me. He's also alum of my alma mater, but a few years ahead of me. And he has a recruiting firm, an executive recruiting firm, a small one based out of Jersey, but he does evidence-based recruiting, leadership recruiting, mostly in healthcare, but in some other fields. So we've had some conversations. We've had 3 phone conversations. He's been courting me along, keeping that conversation going. I met with him and his colleague. They have a small shop. It's him, his wife, and one other person. They're the only like full employees. Everyone else is a contractor. He sees he actually doesn't want an experienced recruiter, which is interesting. He's looking for someone else who has, relational skills, but not necessarily recruiting experience, because he does things a little differently. When I look at my criteria checklist, and I did that this morning, like, I think a lot of the boxes are, no, I don't think, a lot of the boxes are checked. Where I'm stuck is that he's a little risk adverse in terms of taking on another employee and would like me to be a contractor. Working my way, building my way up to doing business development for him, but in the process, mostly doing more of the candidate sourcing and vetting. So kind of we had talked, and that seems to be where my comfort level is. I'm not ready to jump out and start, doing recruiting full time. I just not in the future possibly, but I'm just not there right now. So I'm just kind of he's also offering me a salary lower than what I was thinking in terms of being, customer success and where I'd like to be next. So the full-time, not being an employee and having the responsibility, which I've had a taste of because I have an LLC. I've had a taste of the financial, responsibilities of that. So I'm struggling because he's not quite meeting where I thought, where I initially set my salary expectation. That and having to, manage all that you have to manage as when you're a contractor or you're a sole proprietorship, which I imagine you guys are.
The nice thing, Maureen, about him offering you being a contractor is that you can have, and actually should have, other clients, which could make up the difference in the compensation.
I'm starting to think that. I'm like, I've always worked for someone.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, like, am I just getting in my own way here? Because they seem great. It seems to check off many of the other things on my job criteria list. So yeah,
Self-employment is an option for more of us than we know. It's not as scary as you think, right? Really. It's become much more common these days for all people of all levels, right? It's not just for entrepreneurs, it's for those of us who are, craving something more flexible, where you can have different lanes, different kinds of income streams. That's a whole other conversation that we could have. That's actually one of my personal passions, is helping people get into small business. But yeah, I'd encourage you to think about that more strongly, that if this is opportunities being presented to you, that maybe that's a lane, but then also you can have others. Because you
I
can,
was
as
thinking
a
that too.
self-employed person, you can kind of cobble together a casserole,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm also in wellness. I mean, I'll say this quickly. I don't want to take up more time. I want to give others a chance, but I'm a yoga therapist. So I've really, which is basically a master's degree in yoga. That's the equivalent. I studied that for 3 years, plus a lot of other stuff. So I did it for a personal, but I also did it like, could this be a future, possibility for me career-wise? And so maybe this is a chance to do both a little bit, to test the waters on the yoga therapy side, which is a lot like coaching. From what I studied, it's Eastern psychology, lot of coaching and helping people through things. I'm sure that resonates with you. Sure, you're helping all of us through things and your clients. So yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's not as scary as I think it is.
A lot of
Yeah.
opportunities in self-employment if we get out of that mindset that somebody else has to be going and paying our paycheck and, finding the clients for us. But there are a lot of things that you can do that can be lucrative and fulfilling and help a lot of people.
Yeah.
Shira,
Mhm.
Shira, would you recommend that maybe Maureen attends one of the Boomer?
I was thinking about that. Yeah. So I have this is one of 2 community service projects that I run. The other one is
Okay.
called Boomer Works.
Okay.
Boomer Works, BOOMERWORKS.org.
Uh-huh.
So it is specifically now we are age inclusive. Okay. That's a caveat, but we
I
are,
was gonna say,
we
I know
target,
there's a lot of light color in here. I'm on the verge of the be seen and not heard generation, the one that came after.
we target the 50 plus community,
Okay, I am that.
specifically to help folks re-career into self-employment. That's literally the mission.
Wow.
We meet
Okay.
once a month. We have free educational programs, just boomerworks.org. And
Yeah.
we typically meet the 3rd Thursday of the month on every possible self-employment topic, from conceptualizing your business, marketing, networking, accounting, whatever. We have our training center tab has
Mhm.
dropped down, and it's videos of almost every single
Wow.
presentation we've done since April 2021,
That's
April
amazing.
2020. So you can avail yourself of all of that.
Wow. That's
So feel
really
free
good.
to join
Thank
us.
you. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
That helps a lot. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, interesting questions today. Tangi, I'm just going to call on you. Do you have a question?
You always get me, don't you? I am such just a student. I've been listening. Actually, do have a question for you. So, while I was working over all of these years, I also started a consulting business, and it was at the suggestion of another business person who, because I was getting a lot of requests for speaking engagements in the association nonprofit community. I wrote a book, all kind of stuff. So they had suggested that I start my own consulting business so that I could flow those funds through the business versus hitting me directly as an income. I could write off more as a business. And so I did. But a lot of my experience that I want to include, especially like my PR and communication experience, is through the business, because I had clients that wanted PR and communication experience. Well, I ran into a question that I feel like I fumbled on, but it's okay, because they say when you out here trying to interview, by the time you do it 4 or 5 times, you'll get it right. So, but I had someone ask me, so you were working and you were running your own business at the same time, and how could you focus on both? And I was like, I had an answer, but it was just, I still feel like I was like, blah, 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 blah. Like, what? I don't know. And so how do you handle that? What do you say? I
Well,
really,
let's push that back to you, Tangi. What is your authentic answer to that?
so my answer was basically kind of similar. I said, well, I'm a well-known person in the association nonprofit community, and I do a lot of consulting work, sometimes speaking engagements, things like that. And so I decided to do it under my business versus as an individual. And I kind of left it at, I swear I don't think they believe me, but because I think they thought, okay, if we hire you,
Right.
you're going to have this side hustle And if you're gonna have this side hustle, are you gonna be focusing on what we hiring you
It's
for?
true. That is absolutely the mindset of most employers. They are very nervous because they've been burned, frankly, by people who take time, significant time from their job.
Mhm.
And so what you would need to say is explain to them how exactly you did that. You worked your
Okay.
9 to 5, right? But then evenings, weekends, right? That's where you dedicated the time to other things. And I don't know, maybe you took some I'm making this up. I don't know. Did you take some vacation time if you had to do a gig during the day? I mean, whatever you
Oh,
did.
yeah, I did actually, because I didn't never want to be caught stealing time.
Absolutely. And so you literally say, "Look, I was very ethical and responsible about how I managed both. I was very dedicated to my job.
Mhm.
I was respectful of my employer's time. I did my other, calls and what have you, evenings and weekends. If I ever needed to take some time off during the day, I used my vacation time. Everything was on the up and up." You know what I mean? You just have to like say
Yeah.
it the way that it actually happened, which is in an ethical, responsible way.
And I did tell them that my previous employer was well aware that actually they were my client and they
Right. Oh,
hired me,
yeah.
wanted me to come on full time.
Mhm.
And that was a part of the agreement that I would still be able to
Okay,
keep my
that's a
business.
that's a great
It's a great
actually
So I
answer.
opening
did share
response.
that, but
That's
I
how I
still
would
don't
start.
think they believe me.
That's how I would start.
Yeah.
That's how I
Okay.
would start. It was I started the other way around. You first were self-employed. Your client liked you well enough to bring you on full time under the understanding that you could have some things on the side.
Okay. Okay.
It's we don't even have enough time on this call. This is actually a call. Like this could be a 6 to 10 week series alone
Wow.
just for this one. We could talk. One of those would just be post COVID world. And then there's pre-COVID when people were already doing this. Then there's the whole like, well, hey, don't you and your wife also have like a side real estate biz? It's like different levels. They have them like bosses, the VPs, a lot of them, they have other things going on. But when you're a worker bee, a lot of times it brings in, are you cheating the company time? Are you focusing? Are you coming after my job? Are you going to be here long? Because if you blow up and, are you going to just leave us? There's all these questions that go back to what Shira was talking about being risk averse. But then there's some companies like you just described where management or owners or, the bosses, they understand like, listen, matter of fact, I'll use like pro athletes. I mean, they don't do typical 9 to 5, but it depends. So they go to practice, they go work out, and then they may go do a commercial for Sprite, and then they may, they have an agent. They're doing all these other things. So certain industries are built where everybody understands. You have the game, you have practice, but then you're an entity, and people seek after you. There's other experts too who work. I watch the news a lot, and there's a lot of people who teach and do other things, but then they're on NBC or ABC doing an interview or doing something else. So different industries kind of get it, but the typical workforce or worker bees, a lot of times that's how they view it. So even when you use words like client, consultant, like those are some of the buzzwords, flags on some people's resumes. Like, wait a minute, because I had to answer this question too. And my answer was similar, like, listen, I do this on, I've done this on the side, but whenever I've done it, it's never conflicted with my work day or with what I'm doing for you, or I do this on the weekends, or I do it as needed, or hey, tell me what part threatens you. I may be able to just work in this industry or with this clientele that way there's no conflict of interest. So it's the type of discussion that you have to have and all out. Some people are more interested, others hear flags and they're like, no, 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 no. We don't even because a lot of them, like Shira said, they don't even understand it. It doesn't wrap around their brain. Their brain is, you're applying to work with us full time. What do you mean you have something on the side? What do you mean you're a consultant? Well, if you've been in your field for a while, you could be an expert, and people are, looking to get your advice, and it's side money. So if you can show them that, hey, you have my focus for what this job is asking me to do, and then there's this other part of me over here, I will make sure that.
Oh, it just froze.
Those-
All right, I'm sure
would
he'll come back, but in the meantime, Rich just chatted me. Rich, you have a thought for Tangi as well?
Yeah, my name's Rich Salon. I'm in human resources. I've been an HR guy for about 25 years, and going back 20, 25 years when somebody talked about doing a second gig, a second level of employment, if it's nights and weekends as an example, organizations put a lot of language almost preventing them from doing so. That's all gone away. It's now in corporate America, it's like, oh, you're doing something else? That's great. What do you do? And it's very, very acceptable. And it's kind of become the norm for many reasons. It gives a chance for people to make a passive income. It also creates potentially their own guaranteed income stream if something happens to their day job. So I meet people all the time. It's like, yeah, I work for XYZ company. Oh, what do you do on the side? Well, you should ask. Versus, what do you mean, what do I do on the side? So having a day job and having something else, if you're a speaker, consultant, providing some kind of service, it's becoming extremely common in the workplace, and it's a lot more acceptable. It's way more acceptable than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was kind of taken aback. It was kind of the tone of how it was asked. It was almost like suspicious. And I will say though, it made me pause and start thinking about what you all were talking about earlier this morning about going into doing your own business. I said maybe I should just focus on that instead of looking for another job. Finish building this consulting firm, but yeah, I was just, and then I thought about maybe I should take it off my resume, but it's like I have clients that could speak to this work if I want to go back down into the public relations and communications field. I have to, kind of leave it on there. So I was caught and said, perfect timing for Friday's call.
Employers are much more risk averse. In fact, I would say almost exclusively risk averse when they hire you as a W-2 employee, but not when they hire you as a contractor, meaning as a self-employed person. There just isn't that kind of a risk. And by the way, I'm just as a press pause, I should have introduced Rich. Rich is actually another expert that we have on this call. He is the HR guy. That's his business. He has a human resources business, and I invited him to join us as an expert. So thank you, Rich, for being here. He has a lot of wonderful expertise to share. Actually, there's one thing I did want to mention. I've never said this on this call, but it kind of came up for me for some reason, Tanji, when you were talking. And I just want to put this out here. And I know Alki and Vern and Rich will absolutely confirm this. One of the main reasons why employers are so risk averse is because when an employer hires a W-2 employee, the government holds them to a very high standard. The government has more laws than you can shake a stick at when you hire a full-time employee. We'll call it the alphabet soup. I mean, truly, we can go on and on and on from ADA to FMLA to all this stuff, right? And there are HR professionals who are dedicated, like Rich and Vern when he used to be in HR, to learning the laws to keep the company and the employees protected from discrimination and labor and hour weight, all of this stuff. They're employment attorneys, right? They proliferate this country because there's so much litigation that goes on. And most employees have no idea that this is going on behind the scenes and the audits that employers have to have in all of this. So they are going down the checklist and they're trying to make sure that they are minimizing their risk on every possible level. And the larger the company, the more likely they're going to do that because their HR is more sophisticated. Okay, smaller companies, maybe not as much. But the point is that I wanted you to understand that they have a lot of legal responsibility when they hire you as a W-2. Not as a contractor, by the way. I mean, I say contractor, I mean as a self-employed individual. It's a very different relationship. Then it's what's called B2B. It's a business to business. Of course, there's laws, but it's a completely different relationship than when they hire you as a W-2. So I just wanted to put that out there for the record so that people understand why, right? They're having partly why they're having such aversion. I don't know if Vern, Rich, or Elke, you want to comment on that, but I thought for the record, I should just put that out there.
Well, to your point, while Rich is the HR guy, I was the HR guy for a long time. And, I agree with everything you say. The other thing about Rich's point, that it's more acceptable now, I think, Tanji, what you went through is the outlier. There's still people who are, their mindset is just, back 20 years ago or wherever their mindset came from. And you're going to run into them every once in a while. And, I take it for what it's worth and then just move on. I mean, if they're that, if they're scrutinizing you that much, it's like, I almost don't trust you. That would be a feeling I get. I'm not going to trust you to be able to do this, right? So, and those are the, I don't know, the subtle things that happen when you're, just dealing with any person and their personality and what their mindset is. So,
And it could also be that they were burned. That's oftentimes why
Yeah.
employers get very squirrely and they ask those little suspicious questions, whatever that is. It's typically because something happened in the past. And you know how we are in this country. We tend to be very reactive. We take our shoes off at the airport because one guy did something very terrible, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So it's just we just want to understand the mindset, and to the extent that you can assuage their risk aversion by understanding why they might be thinking that could be very helpful in helping to bridge the relationship.
Listen to a 20 best backward 25 years. HR employers hiring HR people. First thing they talked about, okay, let's talk about recruiting. Okay, then let's talk about training and development. And now for a lot of the HR business partner roles, HR manager, HR director, those are often not even discussed. It's like, let's talk about your employee relations and your legal compliance and keeping your company out of the courtroom. That comes first.
That's
And
right.
that could be 90% of the job interview. In fact, a company approached me a couple of days ago and they wanted to talk to me. It's like, okay, that's fine. It's like, let's talk about your your compliance and your employee relations background first. What state have you practiced the most in employee relations? I go, California. It's like, they said, oh my gosh, done. That's an easy question. You can do California. You can do anything.
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 Yeah.
It was too funny. The guy couldn't believe it. It was true. I practiced. It's in HR for those of us in California. Was in California. We don't work in HR. We practice HR. So in California, so great points.
A lot of litigiousness going on. Karen.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment based on something that Alki said a few minutes ago. And I'm in IT, and it's a very interesting dynamic that has occurred in IT over the last, and I think it was came out of the lockdowns, but they actually have had developers, and probably do still today, who actually work 2 full-time jobs. They would work one for like somebody in Europe. So they'd start like, 4 a.m. They'd work until like, noon for them. And then they'd work for somebody in California from like noon to 8. These people were making mountains of money, but they were working 2 W-2s. I wouldn't do something like that for ethical reasons, but that's just kind of another dynamic that we were talking about, multiple jobs, that people who take advantage of, whatever they can in regards to employment.
And employers are hip to that. They hear all of those
Yes.
kinds of stories.
Yes.
Both they've experienced it themselves, and they hear stories
Mhm,
from their HR colleagues. And so they start putting more and more regulations and boundaries around their hiring process because they just want to be safe.
And taking the hodgepodge of what everybody has discussed, from Shira to Vern to Rich, the world is changing. And so you mentioned IT, and you know this, but to me, IT is one of those where, you have a ton of certifications and skills and license in your current job, you're using them, but then they moonlight all the time. They get calls or they contract with others, and that's an industry where it's understood.
Right.
There's other industries and there's other organizations and companies who don't understand it as much. So you have some who are, still in the 80s or 90s, but then you have post-COVID world, you have, to Rich's point, like with laws and legal and all of that, hey, where have you worked? Because we have millennials now who work this way and work that way. So a lot of people are pivoting. Other people haven't figured it out yet, the pivot, because they're still like, wait a minute, we're still just trying to get all of our people back from pre-COVID. And you're talking about, now you want to work from home. And so a lot of people are like, no, we're just going to stick to the safe, to Shira's point about being risk averse. Some of them haven't gotten there yet, which I know Rich can speak to. There's a lot of HR departments that haven't gotten there. There's a lot of companies who haven't built that strategic relationship either, to pivot the company to like, hey, we need to open up what we're doing. We have people who are working other jobs and taking care of their kids. And so the point is you kind of know that when you see a job posted, to what Rich was saying, like, hey, the first question we want to know is not this stuff, it's this stuff. When you see a job posted, you now have to start asking yourself, like, forget what they're asking for. What kind of employer are they? What kind of culture do they have? What do they allow their people to do? What are their expectations? Is it, will they allow me a day off in the month? It's those types of things that you now have to ask.
Yeah.
And everybody is still applying for like hundreds of jobs. And I'm telling more people now, like, wait a minute, I know you want a job, but number one, for your frustration, stop applying to everything. And then two, ask some questions and you may find out, like, yeah, this isn't the company for me. It's not going to work. It's not going to work for my life. Yeah, I have a skill set and a background that can benefit you, but you're not the right company for me. And thank you. Thank you very much. So
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, Tangi.
I just a quick follow-up question. Do you all suggest that I leave? I mean, if I leave it on the resume, do I leave it open as if I'm still consulting, or do I put an end date on it?
Are you still consulting?
Yes.
Then leave it open.
Okay. I was just thinking with these people that, like
Whatever,
Alki was
whatever the
saying,
it
they
is,
can't get their head out the sand.
whatever the it is, you just tell it like it is. Be straight. Mhm.
Yeah.
And you just explain it like you have done.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm sorry, Vern, Alki was mentioning there are some industries that are open to it. Higher education has always allowed their professors, in fact, even encouraged them to have consulting gigs on the side. Then they have other reasons for doing that because of their reputation, what have you. The point is, it's not across the board. Some industries are perfectly fine with it. Others don't understand it. It just depends on what the sector is that you're into.
I would just add what Shira said about, if you're still consulting, leave it there. Be as open and honest with the employer, and, as just be open and honest with the employer. That's what you'd expect from the employer back to you. So
Right. That's right. It's a
yeah.
relationship.
So,
Yeah.
and if you don't get that from the employer, as Elke said, then that's not the employer you want to work for.
They want transparency, and so do you, right? So just be as open, but at the same time, be transparent and understand their concern and be able to overcome it in a way that's relational.
Yeah.
Great. So we have someone who says, welcome to CA. Could you, I think you might be new to our call. Can you open up your mic or your video? Share with us who you are.
Not?
Maybe not. Okay. All right. Any other questions? It's been a good conversation today.
I have a question around the job postings. So if I see a job posting on LinkedIn or a company website, then, and I know someone, one of my connections is working there, and I reach out to them for a referral. So what do you think should be a good time frame to wait for them to respond? Because sometimes I see when I reach out to them, it's been like 3-4 days, and then the position closes. So what should be a good time to just wait for them? And if they don't respond, then I go ahead and apply.
So say that one more time. So you've seen a job opening, and then you're reaching out to the recruiter.
No. So if I know someone working there,
Okay.
and I reach out to them for a referral.
Oh, I see. A reference, you mean for someone to recommend you into the job? I see. Got it. And I'm asking specific questions. So you reached out to them on LinkedIn.
Yeah, on LinkedIn or maybe via email, if I have their email.
Great. So that's the reason why I asked that is because many people don't check their LinkedIn. Everybody on this call, listen to that. Many people don't check their LinkedIn. Okay. So if you reach out and that's the way you're expecting someone to respond to you, there's a 75% chance they're not going to see it because they're busy and they're not checking LinkedIn. So if it's a first level connection, I recommend do both. Send the LinkedIn message and send an email. Both, because hopefully they're going to see one of them. And then if you don't hear back on either one, and there's maybe a week later, reach out again, say, hey, I'm not sure if this is, and for example, on the email, this might have gone into your spam, wanted to reach out again, and catch their attention. I would say a week after you reach out would be good. You don't want to pester them too much, but I would say 1 week later. If you have more than one contact or want more than one connection into that company, reach out to everybody. It's okay. We have this expression called the squeaky wheel. All right, so be the squeaky wheel and sort of nudge a little bit. It's okay. You can have 5 people recommend you into that job, no problem. that employer will be like, oh, wow, okay, 5 people have recommended him. I might as well meet him. So, but I would wait about a week before you reach out.
The other thing I would add is don't wait. If it's a job you really think you're well qualified for, you don't need to wait to apply for it. Go ahead and apply for it and then, reach out, because all you're doing
Absolutely.
is applying,
Yes.
and somebody's not going to get back to you like tomorrow with the job. It's going to go through their, applicant tracking system. It's going to go through all of this. So you've got some, as soon as you apply, then as Shira said, start reaching out to everybody you can. And the more people you can reach out to, the greater likelihood one or more of them will, in fact, recommend you at some point in the recruiting process, which is what you.
Thank you for that, Vern. Actually, it's an important point you just made, because when you want someone to recommend you into the job, it's almost, and I'm going to put a slight caveat around this, but for the most part, it's almost like you need to apply first. Why? Because if you're going to go to your friend John, okay, and you're going to say, hey, John, Mary is the hiring manager. You're going to say, John, would you forward my application to Mary for extra consideration? If your application is not in the system, Mary's not going to be able to find you. It's almost like you have to apply first so that someone else can actually pull your resume out and flag you. There's one small exception to that. If you know somebody who works in the company, so your first level contact works in that company, some companies have what they call an employee referral program, where that employee will get $1,000, $1,500, something like that, if the company hires you and you stay for like 6 months or so. In that case, then your contact in that company will actually need you to list their name when you apply. So in which case you want to alert that person first, and then they can say, okay, great, use my name, now go apply. That's the difference. But if your contact doesn't work at that company, but knows somebody who works there, then apply first and then have them push your resume through. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Hope that wasn't too confusing.
Thank you.
By the way, Kartikeya, since the last time that we spoke, I met someone in HR in the Raleigh area that maybe I do a connection or an introduction. She's looking too, but she knows the area, so she's HR contact and may have contacts there too. So I'll reach out to you later today.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And Karen, aren't you in Raleigh?
That's correct. Yes,
Yes,
as a matter of
okay,
fact, I know Kartikeya.
Oh.
So yes. Yeah, Alki, love to connect with you as well. Thank you.
That's great. Small world.
Karen told me about this.
Oh, that's how you came here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. I know Kartikeya actually from an AI meetup that we're part of down here. And so yeah, I'm glad you're here today, Kartikeya.
Yes, that's great. Thanks, Karen. All right, other questions before we wrap up our last 10 minutes, Maureen?
Yeah, I have one more. So if in terms of negotiating salary with this executive search firm, and again, this has been like exploratory conversations. So what they originally wanted me to do, we're kind of shifting. So I know he's thinking about it just like I am. I mean, our conversation has been helping him think about my role just as much as it's helped me. So I'm trying to, he's definitely coming in lower than I'd like. And I'm wondering if it might be a good strategy to recommend that he reach out to my reference. I can sense he's risk adverse, everything that you're talking about. I'm sure he's thought about, right, in terms of the risk of bringing on an employee. Although I'm not going to be a W-2, I'm going to be a contractor, right? So, do you think, I'm wondering if as part of salary negotiation, I suggest that he talk to my references before we talk about salary?
References aren't usually connected to salary, right?
Okay.
Salary is its own conversation. It's like what they can afford, what they feel the position is worth. That's its own sort of thing. The references have to do with, do we want to hire you? Are you credible? Are you going to be good fit? It's kind of two different
They're
things.
really
Even if you heard amazing things about you, that'll just justify his decision to hire you, but not necessarily to pay you more.
Okay.
Necessarily. I mean, it's possible, but
Well,
it's
yeah.
not, that's not really the thing. Honestly, and this is again for everyone here, if you are ever applying to a company that's very, very small, and I'm going to use the term family owned, it's not that that search firm's family, but
It
it's
is.
own business, right?
Yeah, it is a family
Those
business.
folks are usually the most risk averse, and especially around their own dollars because it's coming out of their pocket.
And this is his baby. He's literally built this from the ground up, the
right.
proprietary
He's feeling every
everything.
dollar. And so for him to outlay, and remember too, I don't know if you guys know this, but those of us in HR do. But let me share this. I don't know if you guys realize this. When someone hires an employee, and I realize, Maureen, this is a contractor role, okay? But I think that everybody needs to know this. When an employer hires an employee, they're not just paying you your base salary. They have about 30 to 40% on top of your salary that they have to pay for benefits and payroll taxes and all these other things. It's expensive. Okay. Right. So just know that anyway. But as far as the contractor thing goes, he absolutely is taking a risk. This is the first time he's hired somebody, to do this. And so he's going to try to like pull back a little bit. There's some way you can negotiate on some sort of commission strategy, right? If one of the candidates that you vet, gets placed, then maybe is a little percentage, because in recruiting firms, they do that. It's a sales organization. And so they can typically have a commission structure. So you may want to negotiate that just a little bit, right? Basically, if you do a good job and not vetting somebody enough that they get placed, then that could be worth extra for them to compensate you.
Okay, we haven't talked about that. We did talk about if in the process of looking for candidates, if I bring in a client, we talked about that being commission.
That
You
too.
would expect me to do that, to be working both, but also at being new to this, I have no idea what would be reasonable other than, he's telling me what he thinks is reasonable, but is that like, I'm just not sure how much to negotiate because I don't have a lot of information to do that with.
Well, if you want to reach out to me, and I know Alki, we both been in search, are in search. We can maybe give a little more specific advice on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up in next 5 minutes or so? Anything that's worked for people recently? Any other tips you want to share with folks?
I think one of the things that has worked for me was when I last spoke to you, Shira. So you asked me to update my LinkedIn description with so I was putting like data analytics, business analysis, and then you suggested me to replace it with the title. So one of the when I replaced it, and I think 2 days later, one of the recruiters, I think she found me through that only. So she reached out to me.
Good.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that was
keywords are very, very important on your LinkedIn headline. Very important. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, since we have a few minutes, let's go ahead. We've done this once in a while. Let's go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves. So share with everybody that your lane in your community, right? So what is your profession that you are looking to go into? Either maybe you have already been there, but aspirationally. And then what is the community, the industry that you are looking to go into as well? So we'll do Maureen, Karen, Kartikie, Tanji, Claudia, and then I'm so sorry. It says welcome to CA. Could you share with me your name? At the bottom? I'm not sure if he's hearing me. Okay. So Maureen, do you want to start?
Yeah, thanks. I started my search with 2 targets. Director of partnerships for a mission-driven organization, or customer success manager in education technology or something related to ed tech.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, I'm from Research Triangle in North Carolina, which is where we're currently located, originally from the DC area, which is how I met Shira and Vern and everyone. I'm an IT project manager / director, most recently working in the financial sector, interested in staying in that sector, but also transitioning to more of an AI related role, which is why I have run this AI group down in Raleigh. I have some work experience in machine learning, software development, but want to continue to stay in that vein, and interested in any contacts that you guys might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Kartikeya?
Hi everyone, I'm Karthikeya. So I graduated last year from NC State, and I'm also based in Raleigh. So I'm looking for roles in product management, product analyst, business analyst, data analyst kind of position. So yeah, I know I've talked to Shira, Vern, and Alki, and got some great guidance and advice from them. So thank you so much. We are just looking for some introductions in companies. Thank you so much.
Tanji? Tanji?
Sorry. I'm Tangi Newborn, and I can't say I have a particular lane right now. I've done all things in nonprofit and association management, from the CEO seat all the way down to the membership person. And I'm trying to hone in into what I want to finish this, I call it my pre-retirement plan, how I want to finish this out. And so I'm zeroing in, I think, a little bit more back on the PR communication side. But my community is still nonprofit, and right now it's nonprofit and associations, even though I have a few colleagues that keep pushing me towards looking at corporations and for-profit, but I feel more comfortable in the nonprofit world because I kind of speak its language.
Thanks, Tanji. Claudia?
So I'm also in the Raleigh area, so quite a few people here.
Funny.
And I work as a customer success outcome manager, so as in a strategic customer success, and in the tech sector. But I do have experience in finance, service, tech, so a broad sector. And I'm looking to transition, and that's the question: do I want to transition into a W-2 and go into wellness, or is it time now to do the leap? So kind of in transition. Fear, I guess, is probably on the business side, but definitely have to look at the financials as for the 2, 3, 4 years to come, because I do have a daughter that is applying for college, so there is that factor, right, that I have to consider.
And by the way, I just want to offer this to everyone here. I'm putting my email in the chat. If anyone would like to have a complimentary 30-minute call with me, that's fine. Vern or Alki, you're welcome to, put your enrich if that's appropriate for you too, anything like that, but you're certainly welcome to reach out. So Claudia, happy to chat with you. All right, and our last individual, it says, welcome to CA. Would you like to share with us who you are? I'm gonna come off of mute.
Look at me, Michael Benari. I, in the name of working with people with disabilities, and I don't know if I have a name except for one-on-one, but also have experience in advocating with NOS or government officials about this field.
Great. Okay, well, thank you. Welcome to our call. You're welcome anytime. We're happy to help you.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and sign off. So this is going to be the formal end to our job search call. But if anybody would like to stay on the call with me, I do offer a short prayer call as a point of encouragement. Okay. So we'll go ahead and sign off for now. And before I leave, for anybody who actually wants to find the recording of this call, I don't often share this, but I should. You can find it on my website, and I'm going to put that link in the chat right now. Okay, so if you ever want to find the recordings, and we have recordings all the way since we started, which was August of 2020, right in the beginning of the recession. Yep, just about every single call has been recorded, and you're welcome to avail yourself of that. When we started this call in the beginning of the pandemic, it was about 3 times this size, as you might imagine, a lot of people unemployed. But we are delighted to help and welcome you to our community. So thanks, everyone. Have a blessed day. And again, if you want to stay on the prayer call, feel free to do so.
Thank you.